Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video, we're getting that good. Like, oh my lord. Like, there's probably some of the most overpowered techniques and fattest info dumps revealed to us here throughout this video that are super integral to the overall outcome of this overbearing saga, that is the culling game, and really just the entire story in general. So if you are keen and want me to keep pumping out content just like this, but for a variety of different series, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and push this video to 5k likes, so we all know that you want the Hisoka vs Chrollo beatdown that I've begun scripting. But anyway, moving forward into the 13th arc of Gege Akutami's beast of a series that is Jujutsu Kaisen. So, kicking things back off, we shoot over to Tokyo Colony number 1, where Hana Kurisu mysteriously greets an awakening Megami as my fated one. Still dozy, Megami asks how long he was out for, with Yuji, who's looking like the maddest king ever, dripped out in a robe sipping on some wine, remarks that he'd been unconscious for 2 entire days, and now it's almost the 15th of November. Having collected some food himself, Takaba enters the room, and as Hana settles on the couch with a tub of ice cream, the group begin discussing how it's quite odd that the power is still on in Tokyo. Megami presumes that Kenjaku may have colluded with the higher-ups to keep the power on, so it wouldn't interfere with the culling game itself. He then goes off to take a dump, and because he was out of the action for the last 2 days, asks to be filled in on what happened while he was out. It's explained that Yuji bumped into Takaba and chose to join forces in an attempt to locate Megami. Eventually, Takaba was able to locate Hana, carrying Megami through the sky, and that's how they ended up all here together. Bringing him fully up to date, Yuji shows Megami how many points both Hikari and Yuta have, telling him that including his own and Takaba's points, they've met their quota. Now, all that's left is to figure out how many points are needed to actually leave the goddamn culling game. Curiously, Megami turns and asks Hana if she's the player named Angel that they were looking for, and asks also why she saved him in the first place. As Hana confirms who she is, a mouth suddenly appears on the side of her face, telling them to cut asking a chick so many questions, leaving everyone stunned bar Yuji, who exclaims that there is someone else just like him. Answering Megami's question, Angel then goes to tell him why he was saved, but Hana randomly cuts the mouth off, obviously hiding something. Continuing, Angel, which is like the incarnated sorcerer inside of her if anyone's confused on why I keep referring to like her as Angel and Hana, while she explains to us how exactly her technique works. Simply, it negates curse techniques, seals, and barriers. Because of this, it allows her freely to travel between colonies, hence how she was like originally in Tokyo Colony 2, as they thought. The reason that she even left this colony in the first place was because her main goal is to purge all incarnated players, and Tokyo 2 was saturated in cursed spirits, as we obviously saw in the last arc. Her reasoning for this is because the vessels of incarnated players are usually suppressed and destroyed upon incarnation, which goes against the laws of God. Therefore, Angel chose to coexist with Hana. Sitting there, Megami asks if she could use her curse technique to free Gojo, to which she affirms it's possible, but first, wants something in return. The disgraced, or the fallen one. She promises to the boys that if they manage to take him down, she won't hesitate to help. Well, let me all tell you, things certainly take an interesting turn as Yuji is summoned into his or Sukuna's inner world right here. Stepping forth, both loathe each other's sight, yet there isn't any messing around this time, as no, Sukuna, the King of Curse, reveals himself to be the disgraced one. Which absolutely flips the series on its head, and let me tell you right now, you ain't ready for what's about to happen, and I still can't literally fathom what's just gone down in 213. But anyways, moving forward, noticing that something's up with his boy, Megami calls out his name, asking if he's okay. Looking like he freaking died on the inside, Yuji says that he just ain't really feeling that well and asks Hana to switch places with him so that he can lie down. Man's actually suffering after realizing he's been hunted by yet another ancient sorcerer. Having moved out of Hana's point of view, Yuji then begins trying to gesture that the disgraced one is Sukuna. Man, I actually love Megami's confused ass face right here. Eventually though, and after sitting down with Hana, he realizes what Yuji is trying to say. Megami ponders on how they need her help to save Gojo, but now they're completely back at square one as her target is technically Yuji. Similarly, Yuji muses about why Sukuna told him to keep quiet and concludes that Angel must have some sort of ability that can completely obliterate Sukuna without any chance of return. Yuji, obviously being Yuji, thinks that this is a cheap price to pay to end the cursed spirit and decides that as soon as the others implement the rules required to save Sukumi, he will die. With the two comparatively overthinking everything, Angel speaks again, breaking their thoughts and remarking that it's odd how a large number of people are currently entering the colony. Quickly, the group command the Kogane to show the current culling game player base, with it revealing 807 active players with more joining every minute. So right now in this story with Yuji and stuff, we're in November of 2018. Well, taking things back quite a few months until February, we find that Kenjaku and Sukuna's chef, Arume, are explaining to the US officials the existence of cursed energy and cursed spirits. So apparently, curses are usually only observable by the Japanese population, with some exceptions. This includes the fact that they are mostly invisible to the naked eye obviously. Curses and curse energy themselves live within specific wavelengths of visible light that the normal human brain can't pick up on, and man-made cameras don't actually capture the correct light to view what's really happening through their lens. Which, by the way, if you've watched Jelamoth's dope video going over Jujutsu Kaisen's iceberg, well, it goes into the theory that Jujutsu Kaisen's cursed realm is the same place as in Gege Akutami's first story called Number 9, in which the main character, who I think looks exactly like a mix of Sukuna, Gojo and Megami, uses weapons and Shikigami-like creatures that he summons from 9 different boxes that interact with a shadowy realm. Plus, remember that one time Sukuna told the black box to open just before he used a flame arrow to send Jogo to the cursed realm? Honestly, I just need to move on right now, otherwise I'm just start dropping series changing theories that I've headcanon right on the spot. So anyway, after having handed out the cursed glasses, Urame lets everyone know that they function as a screen and will allow them to see curses along with the manifestations made by cursed energy. Instantly after placing on the glasses, the US president along with his secretaries react in shock horror, asking what kind of disgusting trick this is. Cyrus, one of the US president's officials, speaks up, telling them that they all need to calm down as they'd already been able to confirm that this is all reality, and if they don't seize this opportunity, they'll fall behind as a global power. The 2 sorcerers then exorcise the cursed spirits, assuring the officials that they mean no harm. Elaborating some more on how curses don't appear on man-made cameras, Urame states that they have video footage recorded using Jujutsu technology that works by capturing a puppet's vision. Specifically, they show footage to the officials that was taken through Kokichi's puppet's vision, giving them a taste of Sukuna, Gojo, Nanami, and Todo's abilities. The president, who's just watched all of this, makes a joke about it not being IMAX quality. However, Secretary Cyrus declares that they just don't get it. Curse energy has the potential to become the cleanest energy source in history, replacing every other form of known energy on the entire planet. Cyrus stresses that even the blonde dude they just watched through hands possesses enough curse energy to power an entire country. Sitting before them, the body-swapping goon then informs them that in November, Tokyo will become a domain of pure viciousness, where all Jujutsu users will be forced to congregate for a ritual. Hearing this and becoming enraged, the president of the good old USA demands to know if he's been told to kidnap Japanese citizens and use them as research subjects. Standing there himself, Cyrus insists on the importance of tapping into curse energy as an alternative energy source. He emphasizes that sorcerers defied modern science and technology because their brains were wired differently. However, the whole idea of abducting people for human experimentation truly horrifies the president. In an attempt to fully convince the Big P, Cyrus goes on a mad rant, citing various nations like China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the Middle East who would surpass them as a world power if they did not do anything. Beginning to twist facts, he declares that their operation would be to form a protection for the Japanese people against other countries that could target them indiscriminately, sorcerer or not. His advisor also suspected that because this negotiation was being kept under wraps, their failure to comply would force Kenjaku to negotiate with other countries. Having overheard them, Kenjaku added that because sorcerers were a minority, even among Japanese citizens, the November gathering would be an excellent opportunity to collect specimens. Knowing that there are Japanese descendants in the US, the president orders them to be heavily guarded in order to protect them from attacks by foreign countries. Quickly following this up, he then turns and asks Big Gary K, the Special Operations Commander, how many soldiers they should deploy to Japan. Gary, who calls himself a military man, bro, we obviously all figured that one out, asks for more confirmation about the average strength of sorcerers. After learning that the main threat in Gojo would be locked away in November, Gary becomes confident that 1 battalion of 60 soldiers would suffice, given that all the sorcerers were amateurs. He declared that even with their supernatural abilities, they couldn't compete with the skill, weapons, and experience of trained US soldiers. Kenjaku casually agrees, but states he'd still recommend a full battalion of at least 800 soldiers to deal with the sorcerers effectively. Hearing this, Gary dismisses the idea, mocking the Japanese people and pretty much calling them weak and pathetic. Speaking up, Urame proposes a test, and moments later, Kenjaku snidely guessed that the 15 men guarding the meeting room definitely wasn't everyone here. So, I always lose it here, but the meeting actually ends and the Special Ops Manager goes in depth to the President about how in addition to the 15 Secret Service agents guarding the room, men from SAC, the CIA's paramilitary division, were patrolling the White House. Along with them, there's another 45 elite soldiers ready to bring down Suguru Geto. Having moved from the east to the west side of the building now, they believe that Geto would never be able to defeat all of them. In the west office, and wanting to wrap this up, Geto gets ready to unleash his technique in a show of dominance. Opposite them on the east side, that crazy ass man Gary states that these silly old Japanese people should stick to anime and cars. Right now, the US objective isn't to win, but to instead present such an overwhelming show of force that is America. Instead though, man's instantly shocked when all of his soldiers begin falling from the sky, oblivious to how it even happened. Though, after chucking on his sunnies, Gary finally realized the true, horrifying power that is curse spirit manipulation. Back inside, Kenjaku throws down all 45 name tags in front of the president, asking if they now understand. So skipping away from February like we were just in, and time traveling all the way up to November, and first of all, mind if I just blow your minds for a moment here? Well, remember Riko? She wasn't actually the only one that was a star plasma vessel. Like, I actually thought there was only one star plasma vessel, hence why Tengen was like, nah, I guess I can't. Anyway, she wasn't. Yuki was actually also compatible with Tengen, but the reason Tengen chose Riko was because no one existed with her potential, making her the ideal vessel. Which just gets me wondering, like, is Yuji someone who's compatible with Sukuna because he also fits the same potential as a vessel? I don't know, it's just an idea that I've had while scripting. Obviously, let me know your thoughts on that down below. When Yuki demanded to know why Tengen hadn't risked not merging with another vessel, the immortal sorcerer stated that they had simply accepted reality. Tengen knew that it would eventually happen, and he might become a threat to humanity upon evolving, but reasoned that they could retain their sanity using barrier techniques, which does make sense as Tengen is the most proficient barrier user currently known in the series, with Sukuna being the greatest RTC user of all time as well. Incensed by the explanation, Yuki asks a really good damn question. Was it reasonable to burden all of the children with his own responsibilities? Like, it's honestly just sad that this thumb of a man doesn't see the Star Plasma vessel as humans, but more as just expendable paces, and that's why Yuki was so peeved with how he casually disregarded them. Thinking on the past now, Yuki grumbles that she could have helped the Star Organization if their aim was to simply prevent the merging instead of killing the vessels. It's then revealed that Yuki is able to hear the voices of past Star Plasma vessels, unlike Tengen itself. Tengen asked Yuki to tell them what the voices were saying, but Yuki refused, stating that the immortal sorcerer would only use those words to justify their decision to evolve. Sighing over not really getting anywhere, Tengen states that they would have liked to chat some more, yet they're unable to, as it's shown that the megalomaniac body-swapping fiend Kenjaku was able to break through and enter the area above the Tomb of the Star corridor. If you all remember from way back at the beginning of the preparation arc, well, Choso had teamed up with Yuki to protect Tengen from this exact issue. Due to this, Choso, our brother, is the first to intercept Kenjaku, and while standing opposite his disgusting father, he states his intent to finally end him. Kenjaku, though, simply dismisses him as a dispensable pawn, declaring that the preparations for the merger between Tengen and the Japanese civilian population had been completed, with the culling game having now served its true purpose. He then also states that once he gets his hands on Tengen, it's all over. Japan and the world are done for. Suddenly, we then move into a theatre as Kenjaku shows his son one version of what could possibly happen later on. If everyone remembers during Shibuya and how Yuki mentioned that optimizing cursed energy through Tengen will cause non-sorcerers to assimilate, well, Kenjaku adds onto this theory of hers here, revealing that he believed that to be the step which preceded the merger, and unlike Yuki, he didn't want to create a world without cursed spirits. Kenjaku wanted to cause cursed spirits to evolve to the next stage to create a new form of cursed energy. So in order to achieve this, he began citing his earlier experimentations, including the creation of the death painting wombs, but deemed them all to be utter failures. We all know from stuff that we've learnt so far that an evolved Tengen is more cursed spirit than human, so merging all non-sorcerers with him would cause their consciousness to technically cause Tengen's consciousness to become one with everyone in Japan. This means, in Kenjaku's eyes, that 100 million or so people merging together would be able to create a god-level monolith with infinite power. With Kenjaku's film coming to a close and the realm changing back to normal, Choso just asks why. Why is he even doing this? To which the craziest sorcerer alive stated that it just sounded like fun. With Kenjaku trying to drop a joke, an infuriated Choso claps his hands together before beginning an attack with piercing blood. Although, you know, typical Gege fashion, we don't actually get to see that piercing blood attack straight away. Instead, we go back to before the fight kicked off, but now with Big Bro Choso in the room as well. There, he tells Yuki and Tengen that he'd like to face Kenjaku alone. Yuki though stated that he'll die if he did so, to which Choso, like the absolute G he is, countered by asking if she would prefer to fight Kenjaku alongside him. He admitted that in such a situation he would only be a hindrance, so their best bet was for him to engage Kenjaku in combat and force him to reveal more about his curse techniques, giving Yuki and Tengen an advantage. Yuki states that he'll still die, but Choso stated that it didn't matter if it allowed them to end his and his brother's manipulative father. Flashing back as Choso's piercing blood shoots off, Kenjaku, watching the approaching attack, manages to easily dodge out of the way of the attack while releasing a centipede-like curse to attack his opponent. Having destroyed the curse along with a large section of the tomb, Choso watches Kenjaku shoot out in front of him and fling a large piece of rubble in his direction. Seeing it, Choso screams that he's been underestimated, but instantly he's proven wrong as several cursed spirits burst out from behind the thrown piece of concrete. Throwing a condensed orb of blood forward himself, Choso uses Supernova to eviscerate the curses. However, the cloud provided Kenjaku with a quick opening to engage the death painting in hand-to-hand combat. After being pushed back and realizing that he was at a disadvantage, Choso tried to buy some time by asking how Kenjaku intended to use Yuji since he was undeniably different from the death paintings. So, obviously it's explained here by Kenjaku that he doesn't really have a plan for Yuji other than being Sukuna's vessel. Yuji and Sukuna are catalysts. As long as the two live, the chain of curses will never end. Choso, utterly enraged by his opponent's conviction that Yuji was the reason for all of this bloodshed, declares that it was Kenjaku whose existence fueled the chain of curses, not his brothers. Being taken off guard, Choso looked down to see some small curses tugging at him when all of a sudden Kenjaku takes the opportunity and pummels his face, sending him spinning backwards. Instantly following up, he stomps our poor boy's face and condescendingly declares that he's only been using low-level curses on him, but maybe that was unnecessary since Choso was so pathetically weak. Just straight up enraged now, Choso grabs Kenjaku's foot again, but he gets nowhere as he's quickly slammed back against the floor. Kenjaku asks the defending Cursed Womb if he even knows what the rank of Special Grade stands for. With Choso unable to block for any longer, the curse overrides and completely decimates him. All the while, this body-swapping freak remarks that it's the ability to single-handedly destroy nations. Those like Satoru and Suguru with special grades because of their obvious abilities to completely obliterate nations or create an army of unparalleled monsters. Kenjaku added that by strengthening pathetically weak curses with curse energy, he can easily deal with a failure like Choso. Laying there, a boy berates himself for failing to be a good older brother to Yuji and his other siblings. He needed to protect them and be there to be depended on, as that's what big brothers do. But now, he couldn't even land one hit against this creep of a father. Man will never go down, and still, like the king he is, Choso stands back up, refusing to ever let his brothers' names be disrespected. Screaming, he demands all his brothers lend him their strength as he prepares to deliver a raging attack. From behind him, Choso all of a sudden begins to feel the support of his younger brothers pushing him forward. Iso, Kachizu, and Yuji assure him that he's got this. Subsequently, an emotionally overwhelmed Choso begins attacking Kenjaku using all his power and curse technique. Standing there, the latter observes that the piercing blood's initial velocity is its top speed. Dodging the attack, he continues explaining that the ability loses its lethality once the opponent gets used to its speed, and changing the trajectory will only slow it down. Watching Kenjaku effortlessly dodge his attacks, Choso decides to further use an approximation of Wing King, the most powerful version of Iso's rot technique. Which, if you've forgotten what this technique does, well, when the lines of blood connect with its target, they are instantly burned by the corrosive effects of the death painting's blood. As Choso darts in, throwing a fat right hook, Kenjaku calls his version of Iso's technique just a cheap substitute. However, Choso releases the technique, sending 4 beams of blood shooting towards the body-swapping fiend. Having summoned a curse, Kenjaku backflips out of the way, using the curse as a shield before sending a bunch of low-level curses towards Choso as well. Having been hit directly by Kenjaku's previous attack, the latter explains that Iso's ability was not as fast as piercing blood and wouldn't even affect him as he's his father. Chilling over on a tree branch now, he asks the Cursed Womb if there was even a point to everything that he's doing now. Beaten and bruised, Choso declares that he must fight with the grace of Iso, the freedom of Kachizu, and the domineering strength of Yuji. Suddenly, Kenjaku is taken off guard when Choso's arm fully detaches and begins blasting towards his enemy, using the connecting blood as a rope. Using his arm as a freaking grappling hook, Choso latches on and pulls the megalomaniac sorcerer towards him, destroying the ground in the process before reconnecting his hand to his body and utterly pummeling his fat right hook into the face of Kenjaku. Still, like, bruh, man's way too quick somehow. Big brain Kenjaku managed to use a curse shield to protect himself, and lying there unharmed, he asks if his son is done. Choso, with just like the fattest grin on his face, like man's entire purpose has been for this moment right here, asks the dumbass what he thinks. Releasing another burst of Iso's ability, he does his best to attack the fleeing sorcerer. And if you just didn't catch on to what he's doing right now, our bro, big freaking Choso, is actually Omega third eye level of pre-planning and uses his brother's technique to create a funnel to purposefully trap Kenjaku within, giving him utterly nowhere to run as he releases a few supernovas on either side of the malevolent entity. Instantly, as supernova activates, something destroys the entire floor all around Kenjaku, only leaving a precise place where Kenjaku was standing intact. Kinda confused, Choso ponders if he missed, but just knows that he didn't. He activated simultaneous attacks all around him, so how could have he? Due to this, he quickly deduces that he was finally able to get him to use something other than curse spirit manipulation. Finally revealing herself as well, the special grade sorcerer Yuki Sumoko states that she may have been an only child but thanks Choso either way as her older brother for all of his efforts. Having heard what Yuki has to say, Choso faints as relief hits him and falls through a gap that appears in the barrier. Looking at her opponent, Yuki states that she likes it rough, but will have to beat him into shape. So as I said just before, Yuki is a special grade sorcerer, yet even Kenjaku reveals that because of the security around her technique, he wasn't able to acquire any information on her. Unwilling to face a close range attack from an unknown technique, Kenjaku decides to maintain a safe distance and summons the curse spirit that he had used at the White House. This curse spirit here, like I think everyone presumed, isn't even originally from Japan. Still, it's actually a special grade divine being which uses a technique that removes obstacles by using concepts or logic against curse technique targets. More or less, it's freaking broken. Yuki, who's like obviously interested to see how strong this being is, begins darting forward while wrapping up a shikigami called Garuda into a ball. Dropping her shikigami down towards her feet, Yuki then boots it with all of her might, sending it blasting towards the divine curse. From below, Kenjaku, completely blown away, can only watch as his special grade is utterly annihilated with a single blow. Quickly following up, Yuki taunts him for being cautious against an unknown technique, before revealing her ability revolves around the idea of mass, which, like we all learnt in school, mass is the true weight of something, and to figure out something's mass, all we gotta do is divide mass by gravity, so 30 kgs times 9.8 meters a second squared equals 294 newtons, but I don't even know if that actually matters to the story here, I just thought I'd chuck that in, because why not? Ferociously, she punches Kenjaku in the face, sending him shooting back across the room. In fact, the blow is so damn strong and not only rips off both of his arms, but also sends him flying across the empty space within Tengen's barrier, utterly pulverizing any generated structure in his path. It's actually shown that Kenjaku was hit so far that he completely exited the confines of the barrier itself. Sitting there, Kenjaku realizes that Yuki uses a specific concept to target a curse technique, creating mass overwhelming enough to obliterate anything in its path. Yuki, standing there and just looking like a babe, explains that she can give herself any amount of virtual or imaginary mass, and that she calls that technique Star Rage. Having heard this information, Kenjaku also deduces that virtual mass imbued by Star Rage doesn't actually affect Yuki, as her speed hasn't decreased at all. Something super different about Yuki is the fact that she also defies concepts, meaning that Kenjaku is completely unable to use a high-grade curse spirit like he had in Shibuya. Looking at her, the body-swapping douche wonders if he really can take down this beast of a sorcerer. Recognizing that Kenjaku's previous ability involved gravity, it leaves Yuki convinced that Kenjaku has at least 3 other techniques beside Gedo's curse manipulation and body-hopping technique. She doubts that he has many more as well, as without an external aid like Yuta Akotsu's Rika, the user's brain would explode under such stress. She guessed that in the worst case scenario, Kenjaku has yet another 4th technique up his sleeve. Thinking as well, Kenjaku deduces that Yuki's special grade rank suggests that she probably has a high curse energy output extension technique, which she'll use as her trump card. Yuki's plan here though is that she's actually going to force Kenjaku to use his domain expansion, which, as we've learnt so far throughout the series, will make it more difficult for him to use multiple curse techniques afterwards. In the end, she decides to systematically weaken Kenjaku's domain before striking the final blow. But that isn't actually what's going to happen. If you think our guy's plans ever worked out in Jujutsu Kaisen, you are smoking on the wrong pack. This is Kenjaku's world. Man has the plan planned out, alright? Like, you guys need to get that in your mind. Nothing goes anyone's way in the series. He knows that they find each other tricky, but unlike Yuki, he doesn't lack the confidence to unleash pure dominance. Having moved his hands together, Kenjaku releases his domain expansion, the barrierless womb profusion. Instantly, Yuki screams out to Tengen, wondering if there's still enough time. So, good old Gege again, taking things back a moment. Tengen explained that during the battle, they would confront Kenjaku in a labyrinthine barrier located directly below the cursed warehouse and just above the Tomb of the Star corridor. Each room inside of this labyrinthine barrier is empty. This allows a skilled sorcerer, for say like this example Kenjaku, to be able to alter its structure, or at least that's what they would want him to think, as if that's the case then he'll most likely feel comfortable and lower his guard. The reason they need him to feel comfortable is so that he'll nonchalantly use the domain expansion within Tengen's empty barrier. And if this is the case, Tengen, who's extremely proficient at barrier control, obviously from what we've seen, would under the condition that Yuki can hold off Kenjaku for 10 seconds, be able to manipulate and dispel the fiend's domain. So obviously Yuki could have also used the domain expansion here, but using it during that time would also cause her domain to be dispelled, as that's literally their plan here with Tengen. Instead, to protect herself from Tengen, she had planned to use a simple domain. Yuki pondered if using her domain would be a more efficient way of forcing their opponent to open his domain. However, Tengen reasoned that her domain would be dispelled first, as it's technically the outer layer, and might also give Kenjaku the opportunity to counter with a simple domain or hollow wicker basket. Lastly, he warned her that Kenjaku is one of the very few people who can equal him in barrier usage, so don't assume that his domain is like everyone else's, which was the biggest foreshadowing to what we've just freaking seen. Yet, Kenjaku's true potential was even higher than Tengen ever suspected, as just like the GOAT during Shibuya, the body-swapping genius cast a barrierless domain leaving no outer boundary for Tengen to remove at all. Instantly, in retaliation to the domain, Yuki cast her new shadow-style simple domain. However, almost immediately, and due to Kenjaku not having a barrier on his domain, Tengen's technique actually begins stripping away Yuki's shell. With no other option, she sprints forth in an attempt to take Kenjaku down. Slowly, Tengen also begins stripping away the body swapper's structureless barrier. However, Kenjaku remained unfazed and screamed that, unlike Tengen, he has lived for over 1,000 years in a cursed world rife with conflicts and alliances. Then out of freaking nowhere, Yuki, who's left with no defenses, is utterly rocked by the pure force that is gravity pounding down on her, sending her shooting through the floor of Tengen's empty labyrinthine barrier. Now in the Tomb of the Star corridor itself, and with Yuki completely and utterly crushed, Kenjaku states that had the special grade sorcerer used her domain instead of relying on an old fool, she may have fared better. Man, this old dude must have no friends, cause holy, he just loves talking to himself. He even further barks on that Kenjaku had hidden a vital piece of information regarding the culling. Bro can't even finish his sentence as he notices Yuki's Shikigami still hasn't disappeared. Instantly shooting at him, Garuda destroys the area around Kenjaku, forcing him back. Kenjaku guessed that the sorcerer was trying to buy herself enough time to heal using RTC. However, man is just completely wrong, and Yuki, looking like she just got out of a washing machine after 24 hours, still somehow continues to relentlessly attack, disregarding her injuries and giving the villain no chance to recover. Kenjaku, just blown away, asks why she isn't healing, but Yuki just utterly doesn't care. Continuing, like the pure demon she is, Yuki lashes out and kicks the ancient sorcerer until it seemed as if she may have finally reached her limit, dropping to the floor. Seeing this, Kenjaku asked her if that was it, leading Yuki to ask the villain if he had forgotten her declaration. She likes it, rough. Then right on freaking cue, the big man himself, Choso returns to the fight, entering the empty barrier from behind Kenjaku with his technique fully activated. Doing the Gege as per usual though, would skip back just before the battle broke out. The death-painting reason that domains neutralize curse techniques, so he wouldn't open his domain if he expected Choso to join the fight later, meaning that he should, as he mentioned before, fight first. He suggested that he face off against the madman first, fooling him into believing that his only opponent for the rest of the fight was Yuki, then finally reappear. Back in the battle now and completely stunned, Kenjaku is immediately restrained by Garuda, laying him down. Firmly landing on the ground, Choso slaps his hands together and tells his brothers to watch as their big bro is about to commit patricide. Instantly, our boy uses piercing blood on his dad at a point blank range. Yet, bro, how did your brain even manage to dodge that? Yuki and Choso are also just like blown away as they get a glimpse of Kenjaku's true form. Yuki observed that the villain had spun his head deliberately to deflect the attack, which is just actually insane when you think about it. Man's got like his skull is literally just a cap at this moment, like he's wearing it around, like it's crazy. Can he interchange caps, change hairstyles and stuff is what I'm wondering right now. Anyway, I need to continue on. She concluded that Kenjaku was desperate enough to use such a move because he was also becoming troubled. Knowing this, the duo keep up their heated beatdown, attacking in tandem, laying fat kicks, punches and elbows on the sorcerer. Using her RTC, Yuki easily manages to fix her mangled arm and other injuries, but their momentary distraction weakens Star Rage just enough to allow Kenjaku to escape. Wielding Garuda like a whip now, Yuki swings at Kenjaku, only just missing, but the energy released from the attack utterly demolishes the floor and walls of the star corridor around them. With everyone falling down onto some water below, Choso takes the opportunity to attack through the smoke screen, while simultaneously, Yuki lets loose another attack using her Star Rage imbued curse tool. Caught off guard themselves though, both Choso and Garuda drop to the floor under the weight of Kenjaku's overwhelming gravity and replenished technique. Yuki's Shikigami lashes out trying to move, but it's unable under the gravity, and while Yuki runs in to collect it, she deduces how Kenjaku's technique works. She concludes that the ancient sorcerer's attacks have a radius of 2 or 3 meters, and remained active for at least 6 seconds. Swinging her Garuda at him, she knows that once he's caught something within his gravity trap, Kenjaku will then finish it off with a curse spirit, but doubts that will even work against her, as she's not going to stop until she beats him down and wins. Though she should have honestly just won and not internalized it, as Kenjaku was able to parry off a vicious head punch before grabbing Yuki's arm and directing a miniature Uzumaki at her face. With Yuki completely fried from the point-blank blast, she begins to dart backwards, when all of a sudden Kenjaku follows up and forms another miniature Uzumaki while remarking that her density may have increased due to Star Rage, but her tensile strength didn't. Releasing the ability, Kenjaku leaves Choso screaming in horror as the attack tears straight through Yuki's abdomen. Really damn abruptly, we again fly into a flashback where our team is sitting at a bar. There, Yuki asked Choso if he didn't want to be there for Yuji, since it seemed like he was throwing his life away now. Not answering the question though, Choso asked if he's even human. He remembers thinking back to the time when his brothers took form, and realized that they would never be accepted by humans because of their deformed looks. So from this, Choso decided to live as a curse with his brothers, hence why he killed so many people in Shibuya and why now he burdens himself with their deaths. Saddened with his choices, Big Bro Choso states that if he had chosen to live as a human, he wouldn't have lost them. Weeping, he wonders why he chose the easy path. Was it because he didn't want to see his brothers suffering as humans? However, a human then showed up who just happened to be suffering himself. Those 4 were meant to be brothers and fight together as one, but instead he took the easy road and left Yuji all alone. Returning to the battle, Choso, gearing up to unleash a spinning wheel of blood at the enemy, states that the only way to make it up to all of his brothers is to use up all of his life here. But before he could even do that, the G himself, like this is the only time I'm calling Tengen a G because I don't know his ulterior motives right here, the G removes him forcibly from the barrier. Yuki, looking like Gojo for real, tells him that this battlefield was where the Death Painting's life as a curse ended and his time as a human begun, so because of that, he must live. Above the falling Choso, Yuki's body also falls to the ground but in 2 pieces, with her seemingly defeated by Kenjaku's previous blow. Behind the two, Tengen then reveals themselves, causing Kenjaku to actually start laughing at their thumb's appearance, even comparing him to Sukuna's original form, which actually has to have some kind of freaking merit in the story right there. Tengen is like, dude, check your kills, all I had to do was distract you for literally 2 damn seconds, allowing Yuki's top half, I don't understand this as well, Yuki's top half, she just reaches out and grabs his leg, to literally reach out and grab your cankle, bro. Not taking her seriously though, Kenjaku just tells her to die, before all of a sudden and out of freaking nowhere, a massive force begins ripping the sorcerer down towards Yuki. As I mentioned at some point earlier on, Yuki's technique's alteration in mass doesn't actually affect her, up to a certain density that is. And you remember when Kenjaku asked Choso what makes a special grade? Well, nothing you've seen so far from Yuki would actually give our girl the ranking of special grade. Like yeah, she's insane, her strength alone is mental, but this next technique is what makes her the threat to every freaking life form on this planet. When Yuki goes beyond her max density control point, the sorcerer can add an infinite amount of mass with her curse technique, and if you somehow haven't caught on yet, yes, she can create a goddamn black hole by just continuously just pushing more and more density into it. The end result of what she had just formed was the creation of a black hole, which not only consumed Yuki's entire body, but trapped all matter and even light within it. Right before disappearing, Yuki declared to Kenjaku that he should have seen this coming, as gravity, mass, and time all need to be wielded with extreme caution. With the black hole fully formed, it begins sucking away literally everything from the surrounding area inside of the tomb of the Star Corridor. As the energy from the black hole then finally begins to subside, it's revealed that even the ceiling of the tomb began crumbling away, with natural light breaking through and lighting up the underground chambers. By the way, I'm just going to say this right here, rest in peace Yuki, I'm pretty sure she died from that, so rest in peace. What an insane attack, but despite the immense gravitational force exerted by the black hole, Kenjaku somehow manages to survive, climbing out from underneath the collapsed debris. Stunned by this himself, Tengen asked if he had used the reverse curse technique in combination with his gravity technique, but Kenjaku actually makes a shocking revelation, declaring that the true nature of the technique had not been gravity at all. He admitted that his third curse technique originally belonged to Yuji's mother, Kaori Itadori, with its true form being the anti-gravitational system. Kenjaku added that he had taken a risky gamble and used lapse to reverse the effects of the technique, stabilizing the output and activation by using his own body as a domain. Like I said, this is like obviously Kenjaku's freaking world. Man has pre-planned absolutely everything for a millennia, so I don't know how our boys are going to actually end up winning here. Like the famous JJK scholar Broken Ronin also once said, every word in the series has merit. So think on this. Kenjaku, as he watches Tengen's apparition disappearing, states that this was just a warm-up. Then, finding the latter's body encased within the trunk of a tree in the Star Corridor, Kenjaku says goodbye to his friend. And I'm just sitting here like, thinking on those words, what exactly do you mean by that? What, were you friends back in the day? I know he's a little bit older than you were, but were you friends back in the day? What is Kenjaku to Tengen? Plus everything, all of the relations that happened in this arc, are actually mind-boggling. We get to see Sukuna had 4 eyes, and why did Kenjaku specifically bring up the relation between, how Tengen looked and Sukuna? Quite interesting. So it's crazy. I feel like the whole culling game right now is just utterly mind-boggling. Either way, I hope you have enjoyed the video, and if you want more stuff just like this, but for a variety of different series, then let me know down below. Plus, leave a like, push this video to a fat 5k likes, and I'll try to do a backflip or something. I definitely can't do that. But till then, now's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.